Okay, we are back. Apologize for the technical difficulties here. So we just heard staff recommendation, and I will go ahead and close the hearing. Excuse me. And open it. Open us up for deliberation. Commissioners, I had mentioned in the break to Director Friday and Lance that I was kind of mentally drawing comparisons to the Yofi application with the bakery, where I believe he was growing wheat and wanted to make bread and then wanted to sell it in a farm stand, and that wasn't possible. So I don't know if you can speak to that and how it might be related, but then also and Kit, I don't remember if you were here, but we approved a wine tasting room or wine tasting facility. And I'm blanking on the name, but it was the one in Amity and the grapes hadn't been planted yet. Do you recall that one?
Kit, I'm sorry, and Kit, you actually drove up to that one.
Yeah,
It was, I think,
in
one of
Neola
the
Hills,
first.
I remember
Yeah.
the very first ones out of the gate, yeah.
So those two are kind of coming to mind with, the vertical integration issue basically is what I'm thinking of. I don't know if you can speak to how either of those is related or not.
The Yofi one I worked on, and that was going to be located on Wesley Stoller's property. I think they had around 200 acres of wheat planted, and they were going to revive his grandfather's flour mill that had been built out of Liberty Steel. All of this, even though it's 5 or 6 years later, is very fresh in my mind. And last I heard, Bram Yofi was baking bread, pulling his bakery behind his car. But that was a complicated one because it had a processing facility for the flour mill. The bakery was going to be the commercial activity in conjunction with farm use. And he was also going for a farm stand because he wanted to be able to sell jam to complement the bread and maybe locally made butter. And I feel like, as you mentioned, the vertical integration made a lot of sense. They had initially thought about brewing beer and offering that as well. And so they had planted little test acres of hops and barley to see what would thrive there and how they could integrate it into that use. Mr. Yofi eventually dropped the application once it was challenged to LUBA. He just ran out of money and couldn't really fight it any further. But I feel like there is some similarities there in terms of the commercial activity in conjunction with farm use, supporting some of the farm activities occurring on the property, but also hoping to bring in other farmers who may be looking to get their jams to market directly to a customer.
And I think that predated me. What was the board decision?
The board approved it, and
There were 45 conditions of approval. It was the most conditions ever placed on it, and it was due to a negotiation between Friends of Yamhill County and the applicant. And a few of the conditions, I'm not sure were even lawful that the applicant agreed to and that Friends wanted on there. And I think I stated at that time we would not do that again. But because they had worked so hard on it, the board eventually approved it. Again, I think it was 42 or 45 conditions.
Okay, so then it was appealed up and he just didn't
Yeah.
proceed. Okay. And then the other one, the Eola Hills one.
Yeah, they with the Eola Hills one, they had a contract to plant. They had the site was prepped. It was all ready to go. The trellises, pretty much everything
Plants
was.
they had invoices for plants purchased. Yep, everything was sitting there. Ground was prepped.
And we put a condition on that they had to plant it. But obviously there are certain times of the year that you don't want to plant. And so we didn't want to hold them up and wait for the planting to take place before we took action on the land use decision.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
None.
Comments?
It just comes down to definition. I mean, Cornell law, I mean, they definitely are It's a agricultural product. I know that's not Oregon, but I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
I-
something within the state of
I
Oregon too that
Feel
states
like
that.
we turned that page a long time ago, especially in this county.
Yep.
And I don't really have any further comments. I was just curious about, how the connection to some of these prior cases were in comparison. So I would move that we uphold the planning director's approval in docket C-14-23. Is that enough? Okay.
Sounds good.
Any further discussion, questions?
None.
No.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. We need to schedule findings for this one.
Looking at Stephen, do you want to take a shot at drafting these findings or do you want the county to do it?
Happy to do whatever you like.
Okay, we will, 3 weeks enough? 2 weeks?
Let's do 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's fine.
Okay. So the findings will be in 2 weeks. And then I will also move that we uphold the planning director's approval in docket numbers.
Excuse me, if you could vote on the first one, and then we'll have a separate action for the second docket item.
We did.
We did.
Oh, you did? You vote already? Oh, sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
just kidding.
We can vote again, though.
No, we've been here long enough.
All right, so I'll restate that. I will move that we uphold the planning director's approval of the application in docket C-15-23. Any further discussion?
None.
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great. Motion passes. Schedule findings for 2 weeks as well? Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience, working through some technical issues. Appreciate it.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Gesundheit. Salut. That's 3. No way.
Okay. We are now moving on to our final public hearing. Here, which is item J3, a public hearing in the matter of installation of a gate on Smith Road, County Road number 142 pursuant to ORS 368.056. The applicant is Ron Fennern. And is this a legislative hearing or more of a?
This is a public, sorry. This is a public hearing, so you're gonna treat it just like you did the
Like a land
land
use
use
hearing.
hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Well, the same procedures.
Okay.
It's not a land use hearing. It's just a public hearing,
Okay.
but
All right. I will call for well, first of all, I will open the hearing and call for any abstentions by members of the board.
Chair, I'd like to recuse myself from this since I'm a resident of the road and my husband is the applicant. And I'm going to leave the premises.
Okay,
So thank you.
sounds good. Mary, a few minutes. Okay, so we'll just let the record show that Commissioner Sterrett recused herself from the hearing. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the board to hear the matter before it? Does any board member need to announce and state on the record the substance of any ex parte contact or site visits? I've been on the road. Are we doing something wrong? Okay, just want to make sure we're staying in the lane here.
Yeah, you're so far so good.
Okay, so sorry, we don't have a real clear idea of a legislative hearing, but I will start with kind of the staff report. So Public Works is neutral, essentially.
Yeah, I'd just like to, Greg Hafner, the engineering manager. What?
Green light's on.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on, okay.
And just kind of want to give you a summary of what's happened in the last 10, 11 months. Received an application in February for a permit on a gate, for a gate on a public road. The proposed gate was to limit night access, basically be open from 6 a.m. and closed at 9 p.m. And they proposed to do that 7 days a week. Well, it started a process to, and for everybody's knowledge, Smith Road comes off of Parrot Mountain in Yamhill County and it ends on Heater Road in Clackamas County. So I reviewed the historic information and found that there was an existing board order 17-496, which is included as attachment E. This board order granted permission for the construction of the gates with a condition to have gates constructed at both ends. They had to get Clackamas County's permission to construct a gate at Heater Road. Not sure that ever happened. No gates were ever constructed. But in February, like I said, I received a new application to install a gate, which eventually evolved into a solar powered gate at Parrot Mountain only. We went through an iterative process to address concerns about access. If someone came from the Heater roadside, how would they get through? You know, they proposed an automatic opener and, you know, and so this avoided the need for a turnaround. We worked through what we deemed issues about, you know, public concerns. The road's classified as a local road. It's a very low volume road. We actually did traffic counts in the previous board work, and it was like high was like 35 vehicles a day. The low was like 18 on a Sunday. The applicant has 100% cooperation from all the residents on the road, provided information and documentation within the packet that everybody's on board. I reached out to the fire department to make sure I addressed their concerns, and they said there's a permit process involved, and so I'm sure they want to make sure that they have emergency access should they, you know, called out at night when the gate was closed. Same thing, reached out to Sam Elliott from the sheriff's office to make sure his concerns were addressed. And he said, as long as YCOM has the gate information, they can get through. We placed a public sign in and around Christmas time, for 3 weeks, and I received 5 different responses from the public, in opposition. And, those are included as attachment G in the packet. I also reached out to Clackamas County, contacted Mike Benzer, who had also been involved in the 2017 work, and he was pretty adamant about that they don't approve gates on public roads in Clackamas County, and he cited a number of reasons, and that's included in the opposition information. And I did receive 2 additional opposition letters from him talking about wildfire access and solar power systems that the county is replacing their own solar powered systems that are traffic safety related, and because they have a fairly high failure rate. So that's kind of where we're at right now. That brings us basically to current with this permit application. A permit application on a public road requires board approval. So that's why we're here.
Great, thank you, Greg. Okay. Why don't we go to the applicant's case? I don't know if we have Ron with us.
No, Chair, he's not.
He's not come. Okay. Okay, understood. So I will move to testimony in support of the application. And I have Craig Hennings in support. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you.
If you could just state your name and address for the record and then jump right in.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Craig Hennings. I live at 18400 Northeast Smith Road, Newburgh, 97132. I am a homeowner and resident on Smith Road, as you can tell from my address. I am in favor of the gate to limit access at night, and I encourage the board to approve this request. And I'm just doing a little speaking for the residents. Not all of them could be here today, although they would like to be here. I'll read a couple remarks here. You know, the request and the paperwork that we've submitted through the Department of Public Works you probably have in your hands. I want to outline just the main reasons why we're making this request, namely traffic at night through the area, crime and illegal dumping of trash that happens on this very small, narrow, remote area of road. On taking these things here, you know, we've had mattresses, we've had bags of trash, we've had actually like a stolen car or a car that came by, dumped out a whole bunch of stuff in one of the neighbors' yards that, yes, the sheriff got involved and kind of tracked it down to a stolen vehicle. And we've even had livestock dumped on the road that people report when they drive to work at 7 a.m. that there's, in one cases, we had like a flock of chickens left out there in the early morning hours. So anyways, that end of the road is very remote. This is the west end, which is the Yamhill County end of the road that we're talking about this morning. Also, the resident on the very west end of the road, he's had a vehicle broken into at night, and we believe access is always coming in and out of that west end of the road from Paramountain Road. And then that's where, again, we wish to install the gate, and we think during those hours that it will deter unwanted entry and make it more difficult. Safety in our neighborhood is very important to us. Smith Road is a one-lane road with no shoulders, no walking paths, no right of way for pedestrians. The pavement that is there is really just 11 feet wide, and then you get into blackberries or a little bit of grass and weeds. several Smith Road residents, take a walk. Of course, they enjoy walking the road. They walk their dogs. We even have neighbors that own horses, and sometimes they ride those horses to other farms or other neighbor properties. And as you can see, on 11-foot wide road with vehicles, it can be very challenging to maneuver and pass each other. And just regarding the times of the day, in the summer months, a lot of people do go out and walk before that 6 a.m. time frame because daylight allows that. And even at 9 p.m., we enjoy the evenings, and it's still plenty light enough to walk safely and enjoy the road. The ability to reduce traffic during those limited hours is very important to public safety, we feel. A fast-moving vehicle, especially on some of those tight 90-degree corners, which are really technically blind corners, it can be very dangerous. And that's why, we don't have speed bumps on the road. There aren't really signs or anything. There is one warning sign that there's a sharp right-hand turn as you're headed in the eastbound direction, but that's really the limit. As residents, we've posted our own signs that say, caution, people are walking, look out for pedestrians or livestock or residents on horses. Also, just anybody that's, there are some young families that now live on the road, and, those children, of course, they want to get out and ride in their driveway or go to a neighbor's house. We also caution them to be very careful because of the sometimes high speeds that we observe on the road. We acknowledge that, the road or the one end of the road being closed at night is not going to stop daytime traffic, but we think it's a step in the right direction to calm down some of the traffic that we see at night. You may hear some objections to this and reasons to keep the road open all the time. We've offered and we can address those with local residents by providing a gate access code, so they can still I guess we could say just traverse or use the road at their convenience during, the nighttime hours. We're not trying to keep Heater Road residents from cutting through. We're not trying to keep Parrot Mountain Road residents from cutting through. We're just trying to keep some of the unwanted, I guess you could say, people that may commit crimes or dump trash, trying to reduce that type of activity. Regarding road maintenance, the residents themselves have paid to actually add asphalted concrete to the dirt road. That's been a process over the last 20 years. And basically we decided to do that from the Clackamas County end to make the road passable year round. There's some steep sections, and when it was unpaved, so it was muddy, it was just dirt, it was very difficult for anything but a real four-wheel drive truck to travel up the road. So we have paid for that, and we take care of maintenance in that regard. And what we really are trying to do here is just, again, slow down some of the traffic and protect our investment in the road that we've put in there. And again, that helps with safety too. Just a fire truck coming from the Clackamas County side would have a difficult time to access some of the roads or some of the houses there to the west. In summary here, the plan for the gate on the west end of Smith Road is still going to be accessible for deliveries, for the UPS, for Amazon. We're going to address any concerns for emergency vehicles would have 24 hours a day to get through, just like any other gated community or private community has access. We can give access to local neighbors so they can access the road. We've addressed items like, do we need a turnaround? Do we have the proper setback from Parrot Mountain Road? We've addressed those concerns. And we've also addressed concerns from the county for signage. So people entering from Clackamas County side, they know that there's a gate and the hours that it's closed. And signage at the gate itself would provide contact information for myself, for the residents. So we could always, open the gate remotely and allow anybody through. So for those reasons, I think we've addressed a lot of the objections. I respectfully ask the commissioners to approve our request. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. How much of the road is paved? How far up from Heater Road?
I believe there's about a third of a mile of gravel and about in that upper bench. And it's primary, well, actually, it's even about half of that area, isn't it?
I think I can address that question. It's 41 hundredths of a mile, 1,245 feet from the Paramount Road where the pavement is.
Okay, we'll want to get that on record, but I'm just looking at the totality of the length from Parrot Mountain to Heater Road.
Or to
Is
the
it
that
20% paved? Is it 50?
Chair, I think, for the record, I've looked at the Google map. I believe it's 1.1 miles from Parrot Mountain Road to Heater Road. So that's the total length of Smith Road,
Mhm.
1.1 miles. And I would estimate about 10% of that is not paved.
It might be- And I'd estimate just a little more, but you're right in there. Yeah, and I did pull some maintenance records. We do maintain the gravel portion of that. And like last year, we spent about $5,000 on maintenance up there, bringing loads of gravel in, taking care of the potholes. But he's right. We pretty much have been hands off on the portion that got paved that the local community paid for.
Okay, but the gravel portion is closer to Paramount Road.
Right. It's all behind the gate there, that first stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe another quick question. It has come up as a suggestion that an application to vacate the road is an option. Have you guys explored that option?
Well, it's actually, no, we probably need to have a discussion about that.
Okay.
Personally, I've, with my experience with counties and the road departments, I think that's an option that should be pursued or at least investigated to see if it's worthwhile pursuing. And there may be some advantages for us and for the county in that regard.
Yeah, because if, Lindsay, just to clarify, if the road was vacated, we would no longer do the maintenance on it and it would be private and you would not have to go through this process to gate it. And that had been suggested during the past process in 2017. Clackamas County has brought up that same point that, hey, they want to put up a gate on a public road, vacate it, they can do whatever they want. That was their response.
Okay.
But to get rid of maintenance, we can go to a private maintenance agreement, right? We don't have to maintain it as long as all the neighbors agree.
That'd be something I think we could negotiate.
Because there's other roads in Yamaha County that we have that we don't maintain, but it's a public road.
And I know to take on maintenance, we need board approval. But to get rid of it, not sure of the process.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's see. And I also have in support of the application, a Theodore, and I'm gonna get your last name wrong, Kleinkamp. That's right? Oh, good. 2-0 on last names today.
My name is Theodore Kleikamp. I've been a property owner up on Parrot Mountain on Smith Road for a third of a century. My address is 35575 Northeast Smith Road, Newburgh, Oregon 97132. I'm in support of this construction of a gate. We've had over the years an increase in traffic and in trouble. As mentioned earlier, there's been an increase in criminal activity. This is a very light duty road and we now have fairly heavy usage of it, including trucks, heavy vehicles that are tearing up the road. And as mentioned earlier, we've been paying for the cost of maintenance of that road ourselves. Many of these vehicles, especially at night, are moving at excessive rates of speed, sometimes in excess, I think, of 50 miles an hour where they go past my place. There is danger to pedestrians, children, domestic animals, and wildlife. I've seen a number of deer hit on the road in these areas where they're driving fast. It should be noted there's no sidewalks along the road and the road is very narrow. Fire hazard is another concern. We've had throwing of burning tobacco products. This road is very narrow. There's grass. It's very dry in the summer. There's hot catalytic converters. A lot of people don't have experience with that problem, and they can set the vegetation on fire. We've had one fire up there along the road. It happened to be from PG wires, but it could easily happen from a catalytic converter. And we've had an increase in litter tossed from vehicles, particularly on Friday and Saturday nights. This includes beer cans, pop cans, liquor bottles, and then general garbage that could appear any night. And I think that's all I have to say.
Did you want to repeat the
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Did you want to repeat the statistics that you had mentioned about the
Pavement.
the area that is gravel versus paved?
Yeah, I live right at the transition between gravel on the Yamhill County side and the transition to pavement as the road proceeds downward and eventually goes into Clackamas County. It's 1,245 feet from the intersection of Parrot Mountain Road to the beginning of the pavement right at my house.
Okay.
Or 41/100ths of a mile. So in actual fact, about 30 to 35% of the road is not paved.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other testimony in support of the application? And if you are online, please raise your hand. Looks like we have a Matt Hammond. Welcome, Matt. Can you hear us okay?
Can you hear me fine?
And we cannot hear you if you are speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Wonderful. My name is Matthew Hammond. I live at 18485 Smith Road, and I moved there with my wife and two elementary school kids in late 2021. We're in support of a gate, mainly because we've seen a lot of kind of excess traffic and also dumping of garbage around. And with young kids, that's just a little bit kind of disconcerting. My kids have actually, as Craig was mentioning earlier, there was a flock of chickens that was dumped up the road, and my kids helped to round those up one afternoon. We've also gone up the road and picked up numerous pieces of garbage. We regularly walk up and down the unpaved part of Smith with our dog and with my kids, sometimes at night also. Sometimes we'll have flashlights and headlights. Sometimes we won't. So that's just concerning if there's traffic coming at us that way. But I think a gate would be beneficial with having just less traffic so that some of the maintenance costs could be reduced on the road, basically. I think that a lot of the residents right now would be willing to and work forward kind of together on putting in that gate and doing the maintenance on that also. So that's kind of what we've been talking about for this last year.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Okay, so I'm not seeing any further testimony and support. So we will move to testimony in opposition to the application, which I have a Jerry Mullins. Welcome, Jerry. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Jerry Mullins. I live at 32901 Northeast Cramian Road, Newburgh. up on Parrot Mountain, a couple miles from this proposed gate site. I would just like to put forth that I believe installing a gate on a county road, be it Smith Road or any other, to attempt to prevent any sort of undesirable behavior is treating a symptom and not an actual problem. Before the gentleman came up here and gave his statement here a minute ago, I didn't really know what the issues were. I could only speculate. And the issues they're having are exactly what I thought. Illegal dumping, people driving down there at night. And I'll just be quite frank, it sounds like people living in the country that don't want to deal with country problems. That's not unique to Smith Road. I live on Cramian. I live on the unpaved portion of Cramian. Yeah, there's potholes. Yeah, there's traffic. Yeah, people walk the road. That's how things work. In full transparency, I've never even heard of Smith Road. I had to take a detour on my way home from work one day, drive down Parrot Mountain to even see where it was. That is not my concern. I certainly sympathize with the folks that live on Smith Road going through these problems, but they're not unique to Smith Road. We can't regulate or gate our way into some fantasy utopian cocoon, especially by restricting the travel of others. That's something we're supposed to enjoy in the US, is freedom of travel. And I don't really need to hear, oh, well, there's no reason to drive down our road at night. By definition, people don't need a reason to drive down that road at night, or my road, or any other road that's owned by the public. Now, the idea of vacating the road, great. If it's a private road, have at it. But right now, this is owned by the public, and the public should have access to it at all times, just like they do every other road in Yamhill County. To think putting a gate on Smith Road is going to stop the behavior of dumping or speeding or whatever is ridiculous. At best, it will relocate it, maybe to your neighbor's road. So that's some real NIMBY thinking, not in my backyard. Not in my backyard. It's okay in your backyard. So I'd ask the board to not deny this request and look at this in a larger context than a single gate on a single road. I think it sets a very bad precedence going forward, if it is allowed. Because at this rate, bad things happen on all roads. So do we just, after a while, have Parrot Mountain and Lad Hill gated off with checkpoints? I understand that's hyperbole, but that's kind of how this thing gets started. So I tend to agree with Clackamas County that a public road should not have a gate on it, period. I don't care where it is. So I'd ask the board to consider denying the request. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, is there any other testimony in opposition to the application? And if you're online, please raise your virtual hand. And I do want to acknowledge that we received 5 or 6 emails in opposition to the application. Okay. Seeing none. Is there anything I'm missing other than deliberation? Okay. Okay. Sure.
So Jerry Mullins again. And again, I sympathize with the folks that live on there and the struggles that they're going through. But the idea that we're riding our horses and the kids are out doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're closing the gate at 9, opening it at 6 a.m. I've never seen anybody in our area riding a horse at midnight. Just gonna state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will go ahead and close the hearing and open us up for deliberation. I have to agree with, I agree with the concern and certainly understand the concerns, but I have to agree with Jerry that this is not a problem that is specific to Smith Road. We see this throughout our entire county when it comes to dumping trash and crime and speeding and all of that. And it's very difficult to police, if you will. But it is part of living in the country, in the rural parts of our county, unfortunately. It's concerning to me that Clackamas County would oppose the gate concept, not just because of the functionality of it, but because of the fact that they would not approve a gate on their end. And in my mind, it doesn't make any sense to have one. I mean, you're going to have issues with people driving up anyway and getting stuck right there. And I've been on that portion of the road. There's really not anywhere to turn around. So you're going to have issues then with people getting stuck up there at night with no lights and no security. And it's just, it doesn't make much sense in terms of the functionality of one gate. If there were two, sure.
My understanding is there's an auto sensor, so if you do come up the wrong way, the gate opens and you go through. Was my understanding.
Yeah, maybe. But Clackamas County also mentioned that the gates they do have are being damaged.
Yeah.
Somebody runs
Oh,
into them or
yeah, that
whatever.
parks
And
all
now
the
you've
time
got
there.
problems.
People hook chains to them, jerk them down.
Yeah. I'm definitely concerned about the fire access. We have had this discussion extensively when it comes to putting gates on public roads and wildfire concerns. I really feel like this is, and I agree with Jerry, this road is so strange. If you're coming up on Parrot Mountain Road, it's almost like you don't know it's there. You have to sort of know where you're trying to go. I'm surprised it frankly is as trafficked as it is, especially at night, but I don't know that one gate on one end is going to solve this problem. And I really am not comfortable with doing this on a public road. I would much rather see the applicants and the property owners, the residents there, go the route of trying to vacate the road and make it private. I have no idea where Clackamas County would fall on that, but that seems to make more sense because then you can control either end.
Can you vacate just the Yamhill County portion of Smith Road?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, can you vacate just the Yamhill County portion of this road without getting Clackamas County involved?
I think that would be a Jason question.
I think that's
Um,
the only authority we would have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we would have the authority to vacate the Clackamas County portion.
We wouldn't have the authority, but the process, they would have to go through both counties to vacate if you have to vacate the whole road. But if we can just do Yamhill County, they already have all the neighbor support. It sounds like the proper way would be to go through the process.
But where would
if-
that put the gate at the other end?
I have no idea.
I don't know where the county line is.
Yeah, it looks like it turns 90 degrees, maybe a little more than
Is the
halfway
red
between
line?
Parrot and Heater Road.
Oh, I see. There's more neighbors beyond.
Yeah, I mean, you might be just pushing the bottleneck down, but
But, yeah, because I believe the north-south portion of the road, half of it's Clackamas County, half of it's Yamhill County, so that presents a problem
Split down the center
for
line.
vacating half of the road. the
So it
east
wouldn't
half
have to
versus
be
the
a
west
dual,
half of it.
but they've already mentioned that process, so obviously they're, I guess they would be okay with that
I
process. 'cause
think
they-
there's documentation that supports, even within the packet, that Clackamas County supports vacating the road.
Right.
Yeah, generally,
in
the
order-
biggest
in order for
challenge,
gating it.
generally the biggest challenge to vacating a road is opposition by property owners who
would
access the road.
want it,
And it
yeah.
sounds like here they have all of the property owners, even those along Smith Road in Clackamas County, who would be in support of the gate. So it makes sense to think that those property owners might also be in support of the vacation, but I don't know that for certain.
Right.
that would make more sense to me. I honestly don't know why people use this road as a through street. It's when you turn on it from Parrot Mountain Road, you don't even know that there's an out. So I'm really surprised that people know to even use it as a through street, but it just makes more sense to me to have a vacation of the road rather than one gate where now you have all of these issues, bottlenecking at the gate, so. Thoughts, Commissioner?
I would agree, and it seems that there's enough neighbors to support the vacation of a road and to at least address that first and see, I guess, how far they can get vacating it.
Okay,
Because we did go through all the same stuff with the High Heaven Gate.
Right.
and Property act, private property or access to public lands. This is a little bit different because there is,
Right.
other than getting to the other side where there's public lands, everything in between is all private and everybody agrees in between. So that's a difference, but this is still the same issue of do you close the gate or not? And we had very specific reasons for a gate that was already installed and doing barely being able to do a temporary closure on High Heaven, which didn't completely cut off access. People could still walk around and go recreate.
Right.
Which was the purpose of the public lands beyond High Heaven. So.
okay. So that brings us to, there's no decision. We,
So, correct this if I'm wrong, it sounds like you want to possibly move to postpone this, delay a decision to give the property owners a chance to look into whether or not they can vacate it on the Clackamas County side? Is that sort of what you're thinking?
well, I
But
think
wouldn't you have to just deny it and
Yeah.
they'd have to start the process on vacate on both counties?
You can do that, or you can let this application sort of just sit out there too. There's nothing that says it has to be decided on in the meantime, but that's up to you.
I'm okay either way, as long as the application doesn't hinder a vacation of the road.
But the matter right now, the request is an application for a gate, and if it's, it's not a decision to vacate, or, because that's subject to a whole other application.
Yep,
and
no, there's
process.
no decision on that right now. It's a pause on this application. That's what it would be. Or you can just deny it. If you deny it, then they'd have to reapply if they can't go through the vacation. That's why we would just pause the application to give the property owners the ability to go see if, and there's a different avenue here.
But if it gets vacated, they don't need a permit to put a gate in.
No, then we would just deny it. Or we can just deny it now. You can do either way.
I'm fine denying it because I feel very strongly that the road vacation is the way, so. Okay, so I will move that we deny the application for installation of a gate on Smith Road, County Road number 142.
Second? Yeah.
Okay.
I think we just voted when I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Let the record show that Commissioner Burschauer and Commissioner Johnston voted in the affirmative and Commissioner Starrett recused herself from the hearing. Okay, there's no findings or anything. Okay.
But this also has no effect on the permit that was already approved in 2017, correct?
Correct, that still lives, but it's effectively dead because it required Clackamas County approval and they've denied that.
They denied it.
That's what I believe.
Or they never went after it.
They refused to issue their permit is what essentially killed it.
Okay, so that concludes our hearing. And I will bring us back into our agenda. We have already done announcements. So that leaves us with anything else for the good of the order. Nope. All right, I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for January 25th, 2024. It is 1